I'm with Arie Itamar. Now, you escaped during the Second World War, coming on the Exodus ship. Israel is currently at war since October the 7th. What have you been doing during this wartime in Israel regarding telling the story of Exodus, and particularly of those from North Africa who were on the ship?
The story of North Africa is connected directly to the last happenings, because this was first a story of brotherhood, of friendship between two groups which has no common language. The North African young people from the Scouts have been called to Exodus to be part of the crew, because the commanders, they need people which will conduct the daily life on the Exodus. There were 4,500 people, very crowded. And so there is an everyday life. There was nobody to do it. So the Haganah in Europe called two groups of North African young people which were training in two places in France, preparing themselves to go to Israel. They study agriculture and Hebrew. So all their education was stopped, and they have been taken on the Exodus to deal with us, Holocaust survivor, our daily life. Although there was no language which we know in common, but in a very short time there became a friendship, a brotherhood, and such beautiful relationship that, and those people give us courage in very difficult points in the struggle against the British Navy or the detention camp in Germany. They were very strong spiritually, and they give us a very good example. And therefore, I was looking after one of them was hidden in our family after the battle, and I was looking for him 70 years. When I managed to find him, this was the beginning of the project from Casablanca to Hamburg, because I gathered all the children, the second generation of the North African. And I told them, look, your parents have done a wonderful job on the Exodus. Also after, when they come to Israel, they were fighting on the road on Jerusalem. They have done such a beautiful thing, but there is no documentation about what they have done. So we shall do a project which is called From Casablanca, famous city of North Africa, to Hamburg, in which there were the detention camps. And we show stories and a movie and second generation in me, first generation. And this is a show which is going 4 years, and more than 4,000 people have seen this show, including soldiers, including school children, including Rosie and her family preparing the bridge. And we continue. We were invited by the president in his house in May to show him what is this job of From Casablanca to Hamburg. We give the honor to the very, very special group which was on the Exodus.
It must be exciting to be able to do this project for you, who's actually someone who's escaped on the Exodus ship yourself.
It was very exciting because there was a lady from the North African which she, after speaking with her, she told me that she know about the man which I'm looking for, 70 years. And she organized, together with his family, a meeting. He was still alive, this man. He died before 1 year, but when I met him first time, he was still alive. And it was very exciting. We exchanged memories. Also, he was 96,
Wow.
old enough, but we exchanged memories, and his children were, and there was also a reporter from the 12th channel of the television. It was documented and it was transmitted in a Holocaust Day in 2020. And in this occasion, when I met this man, we all decided to do this project from Casablanca to Hamburg.
What was it like seeing him for the very first time after all this time?
I was a little bit concerned. I asked myself before I meet this man, maybe this is not him. maybe it is another one. Is all of this is mistake. So when I entered his apartment, his family showed me photos in which he, the man Charlo, his name, together with his friends, fellows. As I looked, 4 photos like this. In 3 of them, immediately I show my finger on Charlo. Wow. And this was the test. After this kind of test, it was clear that Charlo is the man which I am looking for him 70 years. Very exciting it was. Yes.
Now, the Holocaust was initiated by Nazi Germany, and you actually had the opportunity to go to Berlin for March for Life. Tell us a bit about that.
It was very exciting. I was invited. Now, I was invited by the chairman in Israel here, Igal, his name, to be in contact with this group for several years ago. They invited me first when they appeared here in Israel, and with the show, a musical called Exodus. The musical was so authentic and so close to the reality. I was very excited when I have seen them first time. And then the relationship developed. In 2019, they invited me to their annual conference in Tübingen. Their origin is from Tübingen. And we keep all the time contact. And now they invited me to Berlin. They made a conference. I was never in Berlin. They asked me to say something for the audience. And we were marching through the streets, which I have seen their names, Unter den Linden. I have read all the history books about what happened, about Hitler and his headquarters in Berlin. And so it was very, very exciting, especially the gate, the Brandenburg Gate. And the speakers, there were Holocaust survivors, ambassador of Azerbaijan, and people from the March of Life. And all are devoted to the fight against anti-Semitism. And I think that it's very courageous people. We are proud in our families. I tell my grandchildren about my grandfather, and they cannot be proud in their families. They are ashamed. They have to cut their roots and to march in another way. It is a big achievement of human spirit to do such a thing, so difficult. I appreciate very much Rosie and her people of RTB, and they also make a turn again, but they make a turn not against their families, but against the government, the policy. These people are not only against Nazi Germany, against their grandfather. I remember in the conference in Tübingen, I was very embarrassed because many people stand in front of me and ask my forgiveness. I tell them, look, I forgive you personally, but I cannot speak in the name of Holocaust survivors. I am a private person. Arrived before me a young lady, and they told me people that she is a medicine doctor, a very famous person in the research of cancer all over the world. She was also in Israel, working in Hadassah, and in many other places. And she came to me and began to cry. I asked her, what is your story? Why are you crying? I am ashamed. I am a doctor of medicine, but all my family was doctor. My grandfather was also a doctor of medicine, but he made experiments on human beings. I cannot live with this. So I told her, look, you are not responsible for the deeds of your grandfather. And the way you find to do your life by research of cancer, to give your grandfather give death to people, but you are giving lives. It is your achievement. It is the way you show yourself that you are disconnected completely from the heritage of the dead things which happened in the war. This is what I told her.
And that would bring a lot of comfort to her as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was painful to hear. Yeah. She was crying, but I understand exactly. And the other people also, many of them stand on the podium and they are telling what their families has done, what their grandfather. So I appreciate these people very much. All the people, you and Rosie and the people which make a change against beliefs, ideologies, families or so on, and choose another way which they think that it is a just and the right thing to do, I appreciate it very much.
Why is telling the story of the Exodus 1947 important for today?
Because it was a combination of several important factors. One is the friendship and brotherhood between groups of the population. There are many people from many countries, many languages. Also, I give you the example of the North African Americans, sailors, the commanders from Israel, which were completely different characters, like Ike, the captain, a special character. All those people find the way to be together, to be united, to be as one group. This is one, the brotherhood. And the other factor is the standing in difficult situations. A very difficult situation, but we need the courage to stand and to believe and to be optimistic, to believe that the end will be with us, that we shall survive, we shall overcome, and the message of to survive and to overcome is very critical now after what happened in the 7th of October and later. I am speaking from time to time with my grandchildren about this. I tell them, and they ask me, have you experienced such a difficult? I can tell them that every time has different difficulties. I cannot compare. I cannot say this is more and this is less. I can only tell you that as we overcome the difficulties, we shall do it again now.
You've escaped Nazis and you came into Eretz Israel and you've been here for many, many years. How have you and your family been impacted by the ongoing war today?
There are people which are living normal life, so-called, like me or my children, which we are not serving in the military service. We are too old for this. But we are living all the events. We know what happened. I have grandchildren which participated in the fight. The eldest grandson, which became a captain along the war, he was serving in the north against the Hezbollah. Also his wife, he is married, she is also officer, lieutenant. Both of them intelligence officers participated in the war in the north. Another grandson is a tank commander. He was in Gaza. He was released only 2 weeks before. In the middle of his service in Gaza, in the tunnels, in the terrible places, his military service was finished. But he get immediately a command to continue. But he say, even though with no command, I would have to continue because it is my soldiers. I will not leave them. Only now, when they come out of Gaza, all his regiment of tanks, then he decided that it is time to finish the military service. He was able to do it before, but he didn't want. He met in one of the tunnels. I have another granddaughter, her boyfriend, partner, parachutist, and he met with my grandson, the tank, in the middle of the war in Gaza.
Wow.
In the middle. We were anxious, all the family. We cannot sleep by night because every day we have to look at the news because every day was some and other victims, soldiers which are fighting, and until now only the children in the north front was released after the Hezbollah as the blow which they have by the speakers. They have been released. But the one, the parachutist, friend of my granddaughter, he was also released some time ago. But the youngest on the tank was until 2 weeks before. And it was very difficult always to think. So by the other thing, I know that I can be proud of my grandchildren. They participated in defense of our people.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you're a Holocaust survivor yourself coming here to Eretz Israel, and now your grandchildren are fighting in Gaza to protect the nation, to protect the country, so you must be very, very proud of them.
This is something which I was thinking always and asking myself, was it just from me to come here to the area in which is in war? The hostility do not begin now. It began when we arrived in Israel, there was the independence war. 1.5 years, 5,000 people, 1% of the population were soldiers who died on the battlefield. All of us, me too, we were hoping that this will be. I remember when my youngest son was a boy, well, when he will be grow, there will not be war anymore. And then I was serving in some of the wars of Israel, one of them also in the First Lebanon War. I was there in the beginning, and at the end of this war, my son was mobilized and was also in Lebanon. And then I said, when the grandchildren were born, oh, now I'm sure that they will experience such things. And now I can see. So this is the question. Was it worse? I say I do not come into internal political problems, because this question is also asked in the connotation of the differences, political differences in Israel. So at this point I will not go inside. But according to this, I tell them, look, it is not only the history that we are connected to this place, this is the heritage. Here our nation was born. But also the question, where can we live free, independent? We, in Europe, with the anti-Semitism, with all this, what happened here, at least we have the right to defend ourselves. In other places we cannot do it even. So we hope for good. We hope that someday this hostility which brings to the wars all the time, again and again and again, will stop. People will be tired. I can see it today. Just 2 days before was an interview with one of the terrorists which have been released from the prison. A famous terrorist. He escaped from the prison, a very famous, charismatic person, young. And he said, all our violent struggle against Israel was a mistake. A mistake. We didn't gain anything. We have no achievements, only discussion, only death, only wounded, only bad thing, nothing good. We have to change our attitude. And this is one of the biggest terrorists. This gives me some hope that maybe in some day all of them will change their attitude. After 150 years of violence, which they used any possible method, guerrilla, robbers, murderers, frontal army, invasions like Independence, like Yom Kippur, missiles, everything, and nothing worked. We still exist. We continue to live. We continue to develop. And so 150 years, they have to think again. They have no achievement, nothing. So I hope maybe this will be changed.
What positive things do you see coming from the war?
Well, war is a bad thing. A good thing couldn't come out of any war. But some achievements can come. Not in Gaza. In Gaza is a very complicated issue, but that in the north, that the Hezbollah is broken. And then the first time, after 20 years, Lebanese government take control on the country and ask the Hezbollah, give us back your arms. This couldn't be happen before this war. And Syria, the change in Syria also. all these changes are positive. This is what I can say, not good, positive. And maybe will later on will be translated into peace treaty between Israel and Syria and Lebanon. And this is the result, direct result of the destruction of Hezbollah and also the war on the sky of Tehran. The sky of Tehran, which was dominated by Israeli pilots for 2 weeks. It is such humiliation to this regime that I do not know if they will be able to survive. They can bring new ballistic missiles from China or from Russia. But what happened that I know, Oded, his son was a pilot above Tehran. So a young boy, which I visited together with his father in the base when he was training to be pilot. I think he's 19 or 20. He was making a tour around the skies of Tehran. So this will also a lesson that maybe the way of violence and hate is not working. So these are the achievements which I think from a positive achievements from this war.
How concerned are you about the rise of anti-Semitism during this war? We've seen Israel had the worst terrorist attack in its history, and then suddenly there's a huge rise in anti-Semitism now. How concerned are you about that?
This is one of it's not a big question, because the answer deeply I can know. You take it in account. It's people like you or Rosie or the Germans. You are not the majority of the people, because 2,000 years of anti-Semitic education, how can it be eliminated just like this? One of our historians, which is Holocaust survivor and is dealing with Holocaust, Elie Wiesel, his name, very famous man, he says something very clever. He said, the European people will never forgive us the Holocaust. So what does it mean? We are the victims because many collaborators were in Europe, in all the countries, in Belgium, in Holland, in France, of course, many. And, I don't say all. There were some people which helped Jews, which risked their life, and they were recognized by Yad Vashem and so on. But many, many others were collaborators. And so people which know history, they see the wars here, and you are like me. Don't preach us morality. You are like the Nazis. It doesn't matter, truth or lie or manipulation, nothing. Just to feel, people want to feel themselves that they are not blamed. So we blame all the collaborators in the Holocaust. No, you are not better. You are also like the Nazis. This is the expression which so deeply it is, the anti-Semitism is like a roots of a volcano. I am a geologist. I know that the volcano is not every day exploding, but the lava is working, and someday it comes out. And it comes out not just now in the 7th of October. It comes out even many years ago. I remember I was in Australia in a sabbatical in 2006 when there was the Second Lebanon War. The Australian television, there was some bombing of Beirut in which a young boy was wounded and he has his bandage. The Australian television showed this photo of this child 2 weeks, every day. I said, there were no other events. There were no Israeli citizens who had been from the missiles from Hezbollah. No, every day. This is anti-Semitism. And later on, it began the clashes with Gaza. Every 2 years, Al-Aqsa is in danger. Some expression, idiotic, which never happened. Somebody come to near the mosque and say some prayers for his God. So what is this bad? This is the danger and this is the excuse. So every time. Now, one of the clashes in Gaza, and it was in the beginning, there was a British reporter of the BBC standing on a hill, which I was also in my work, according to my work on the quarries inspection, I was there when there was one of the small wars in Gaza. And there was a British reporter of the BBC. And somebody tell him, look, why they are shooting? When he began a discussion, so he blamed Israel, he said, but they started this. And what did he say? He says so. I look at Gaza, and there nobody can sit in a coffee shop. But in Tel Aviv, there are. People are going and sitting. So I sent this terrible idiot a letter, and I told him, because of your propaganda, you're supporting the terror, but you and such colleagues like you, in a very short time, people in Tel Aviv will not be able to sit in a coffee shop. And this, after 2 years, they extended the range of their missiles and they hit Tel Aviv also. I say this is a direct result of the European media or the propaganda, because they are giving photos of wounded people, wounded children. Many of them were wounded because of the Hamas, because the Hamas didn't give them a way to escape. And this promote the terror, and this give motivation. It's beautiful photos for the Hamas. Wounded children, civilians. And so one of the present events, speaking of the hunger in Gaza, they show a boy which has very rare illness, and he became thin because he was treated in some hospital, even in Israel. His father stand near him, very nice looking, not hungry. They show this photo as a hunger in Gaza. Such photos, they like these photos. They continue to war, they continue terror, they continue, and the European media is supporting this way. And so this war, I come to the 7th of October. As first of all, I make the comparison as a Holocaust survivor. One of the events which resembles what happened in the 7th of October was the massacre in Babi Yar in Kiev. It was when the Germans attacked Soviet Union and they take control on Kiev. They gathered about 30,000 of most of the Jewish population in some valley, and they killed all of them. I am not speaking about the comparison of numbers. Here there was only 2,000 and 30,000. Not. Another thing, the murderers of Babi Yar, the SS or collaborators, Ukrainians, they stand behind, they shoot them by a gun. They do not touch them by hand. The night before they drink alcohol and take drugs, because they do not want to have a direct contact with the victims. The terrorists, they have a direct contact with it. It is much more terrible than Babi Yar because the terrorists has direct contact with the victims, killing them by hand, raping women, girls, and so. And about the uninvolved people of Gaza, they send immediately photos to their parents, and their parents, proud, come out to the street shouting and making like this. So this is much more terrible. And this reminds people like me, because I come from Odessa. In Odessa was a very similar massacre like in Babi Yar in Kiev. We managed to escape, me and my grandmother. We escaped. But many other people which do not manage to escape, they have the same fate like Babi Yar. But it is far away from what happened in the 7th of October. And something in the side, let us say, a macabre, the stupid man, the General Secretary of the United Nations, he said, this happened not in a vacuum, idiot. Yes, it was not in a vacuum. From children garden, from first class of the school, the literature of the children is full of anti-Semitic content, cartoons like in the Stürmer, like Jews with the big nose and so, full of hate. What do you expect from a child 17 years old which has a gun and a knife, and he was educated along this literature? Of course, it is not in a vacuum. He is right. The European community filed that the books of the Palestinian Authority are full of this material. It is the official book which they are learning. And they ask the Palestinians every year, please move it out because we shall not give you finance. Nothing happened. Just speaking. No sanctions, nothing. The Palestinians refuse, no, we shall not take it out from our books. If you will not give us financiation, we shall have it from China or from other. Of course, this is not in a vacuum. Children, which this is their education, what do you expect from them when they become 16 or 17 years old?
What parallels do you see with the 1930s?
Well, first, as I told about the Babi Yar, but I think the parallel thing is not here in Israel, but in Europe or in America. The anti-Semitic terrible wave is very similar to what happened. And unfortunately, we didn't learn from the past. And the reaction of Jewish community and Israel against this wave is very poor, let us say so. There are many, many possibilities and methods to fight against this, and Jewish organizations and the Israel with all our institutions do not find the way how to deal with this wave. Because what is called to explain ourselves, this is not valid. Anti-Semites are not waiting from our excuses or our explanations. They do not believe, they want to believe that we are the most terrible people all over the world, and they will do it, never mind what act we shall take. I justify completely the way that to send food and medical thing to Gaza. Of course, why not? People has to live. Also, to prevent the Hamas to put head of this supply is important also because they are using it for their method, not for the people of Gaza. But as a method of giving food to the population, it's okay. I agree with this. But we can explain everything thousands of times. This is not the way to fight. The way to fight the anti-Semitism is to fight. What does it mean? All Jewish organizations in Europe, in America, together with Israeli institutions like Mossad, secret services, has to build a special fighting group which will deal with people like BDS or like other anti-Semites with a very hard method, chasing them, make against them trials. If there is a shop which put a sign, Jews are not accepted, to make shaming, to do people to ask not to come, to make a boycott against this shop. It is a fighting, but there is no other way. To tell such people that you are wrong, we are good people, it's not, it's propaganda, it's nothing. It doesn't work. Only fight. All those anti-Semites has also with the Mossad, our Mossad has also to be involved inside and to find those people, to put them to judgment, to close their, make against their businesses, to make damage to their business, not violent, I said, to do the work against these people like it is necessary to fight because we shall not convince them. We shall not change their mind. We can also make limit to their activities and to show them to be anti-Semite is not a picnic.
What would you say to the UK government and other governments who are pushing for a two-state solution?
Well, this is the most difficult questions because I must tell you the Israeli society is splitted also according to this problem. Today, I will start from today. Today, by what I mentioned, the education, the anti-Semitic education, and they do not recognize the Palestinian, not only, even the authority. They do not recognize our history, and they maybe some of them accept that because we are strong, that we are still here. We are here. But they do not accept the idea. So for this moment, I think it is not justified, it is price for terror. If one day, they will, Palestinians will recognize that our heritage is here, that it is our homeland, that they have to accept it. If this will come, maybe it will be possible to recognize, but not exactly independent state, maybe a combination with Jordan, these territories, because with Jordan will be called the Palestinian Jordanian Kingdom or something that, I don't know, but because I do not want, I was many years ago making a military service also in Gaza in 1972. And there was also terror. We were fighting against terrorists, but not only. In the middle of the night, we have to go into house of people, frightened children, and to ask them for identity card. I don't want to do it. I don't want that my children and grandchildren will do it. I don't want to control people which are not my nation and which do not want our control. There must be some kind of a solution. I do not mind this for our children. For the moment, it is impossible. Well, they have 3 times possibility to have an independent state, and they, by their own hands, destroy it. First, the Oslo Agreement. Now, there was naive people which believe that they want peace. Our Prime Minister, Rabin, do not believe Yasser Arafat. He sees that Desmond Man is a crook, is a terrible terrorist. But he was naive enough to believe that if he show the people, the Palestinian people, another perspective of peaceful life, they will follow us and not Yasser Arafat. He was mistaken. They prepare violence. They prepare the message of Yasser Arafat instead of peaceful life. It was first. Second, the other prime minister in 2000, Ehud Barak, 10 years later, he also offered the same Yasser Arafat, the same thing. He refused. He again started violence. Third time, Ehud Olmert, a prime minister from the right wing of the Israeli policy, offered a very generous to the Abbas, Abu Mazen. He refused. And why they refused? There is a small problem which people do not understand. The man, Abu Mazen, first of all, he is Holocaust denier. His PhD, he is done at the University of the Soviet University of Moscow in 1988, 1 year before the collapse of the Soviet Union. Moscow University history is just a place of producing artificial history. They give him PhD for denial. He say only 800,000 people has been killed in the Holocaust, not 6 million. This man is a man to do with him peace. And then he has an interview. It was very interesting. In his interview, he became to be an archaeologist, not only a PhD. Now he is also archaeologist. He is historian. He says so. The Western Wall is not a wall of a Jewish temple, There was no Jewish temple. It is a wall of Islamic mosque. Now look, I am not religious, but we see this, the temple is a national symbol. This is the ultimate symbol of the independent existence of people of Israel. When he denied this, he denied our right to be here. And so this is the reason why the three-time negotiation was collapsed, because the Palestinians understand that if the negotiations are advancing and there is agreement about territory, about transport and so on, but it will come to the end point. 400, 500 square meters of the west and southern wall, the ultimate symbol of the Jewish independence. When they come to this point, they will say, no, we don't want to give you. We don't want to share with you. And in this point, the world will understand finally who want and who do not want peace. Because if they give up this part of Jerusalem, it means that they recognize the unjustified Zionism. It means that our tendency to come here and to build here and not in Alaska is justified because of history. This is the reason why any Israeli government, even Rabin and Barak and Ulmer, they do not want to give up. And they say this, the west wall and the southern wall is part of our heritage. And these people do not understand that it is behind this small area, 500 square meters, is the source of the conflict.
How can Christians best support Israel and the Jewish people worldwide?
This is what I said before, that not only Jewish organizations, not only Mossad, but also Christians in England or in Germany and so on, they have to join to a common war cabinet, let us call it, fighting against anti-Semitism with aggressive methods, legal, but aggressive. And the Christian people has more opportunities to do this because they're involved in the communities, and some of them have positions like in government or in municipalities, and they can help very much to fight against these anti-Semites, to show their ugly face, to make them shaming, to make damage to their businesses, not only speaking and telling. The anti-Semites do not accept, as I told before, they do not believe that we are good people. You can show them evidence that Gaza is fake and the Hamas, they will not believe. This is not this issue. The issue is that they are motivated anti-Semitic from their childhood, from their parents, from their grandparents, and only aggressive fighting will have results. So that those people will be careful. Not that a Jewish boy cannot come out in Paris with his religious, he is afraid. This can be changed. It can be changed so that the anti-Semites, they will be afraid. This is the Christian people which support us can contribute.
Well, Arie Itamar, thank you very much for sharing today.
Thank you also. I hope that something will happen for good.